Coyer for you guys back there. My name is Jason Coyer. I'm the assistant AD for media relations here at Marshall. We'll go a little bit over the process here. Coach Huff is going to speak a little bit with our media, both here in attendance and on Zoom as well, if we have any questions there. After he's finished, you guys are going to come up one by one. We're going to hit you with a couple of questions, and then you'll be finished when you get up here. And I'll remind you, make sure you state your first and last name for the people here. They have yet to meet you. So, all right, without further ado, head coach Charles Huff.
How's everybody doing? Again, I appreciate everybody for, one, being here, and two, kind of going through this process with us that started a little bit over a year ago today. So obviously today is a really exciting day. A lot of the young men in this recruiting class were signed in December. We had 4 young men that joined today. But as a family, we celebrate today as kind of the next step in Marshall University football, the chapter, the 2022 signing class as a whole. A lot of really good young men, a lot of really phenomenal families. I think the one thing that I learned through this process is Marshall attracts some really phenomenal families, phenomenal young men, character. I think our staff did a phenomenal job of building relationships through the recruiting parameters that we kind of started with COVID and no spring recruiting and getting kids on campus later in the summer, all the way down to official visits this summer, visits throughout the year, games, and then towards the end, home visits and kind of finalizing this class. Can't tell you how much I appreciate the staff. I know you guys know our coaching staff has done a phenomenal job, but our off-the-field staff did a phenomenal job. They were the ones that held the glue together. They did a lot of the organizing of where to go, what plane to get on, what plane to get off of, this young man's academics, this young man's favorite food, hey, this young man's coming to this game. So our staff, from Mark Valter, our general manager, to Alex Jones, our assistant director of recruiting, to Catherine Kennedy, our director of on-campus recruiting, and all of our student interns and help did a phenomenal job. Also want to send a thank you to Her Nation. You guys did as much in the recruiting process as us. As we identified young men and we developed relationships with young men and strengthened those bonds, you guys did a phenomenal job of showing them the true love that Marshall has, the passion, the energy, the enthusiasm. I joke with those guys all the time. I said, you know, when you finally committed to Marshall, you probably found 3 people that lived next to you that you didn't even know had Marshall ties. And a lot of them said yes. So again, Herd Nation, thank you. This is just the beginning, right? Recruiting great young men does not immediately equal undefeated season. I know everybody wants that, and so do I. But what these young men are going to have the opportunity to do while they're here is develop as people, develop as students, and develop as athletes. And hopefully that development is fast, but we're going to do everything we can to give them the best opportunity to succeed. So we're looking forward to a lot of these young men contributing next season. There's a long way before we'll be able to determine who's where and who can do what. We are in the kind of beginning phases. A lot of these young men are here on campus. Some of them won't join us until June. But as a family today, we celebrate. So with that, I'll open it up with questions.
Huff, obviously recruiting never really ends, but here we are, you know, this last year has been pretty hectic and busy, not only COVID, but your new coach being here and trying to figure out ways to recruit these kids. You know, how does it feel now sitting here watching it all come to fruition?
You know, I'm really excited more for the staff and the entire organization and program. You know, a lot of people and I had relationships, and we came here as a family. We joined an unbelievable family, and I think today is just kind of a celebration of the two kind of coming together. What Marshall has always stood for, what Marshall has always presented families and young men, what Marshall football has stood for so long. And then obviously the hard work of the people on our staff that we hired. You know, it's kind of like a marriage of celebration. You know, it's Marshall was already a strong brand, a strong program. We brought a lot of energy and passion and some different ideas a different culture, a different brand of, student athlete, their type of student athlete we were recruiting. So today's kind of like the celebration of that. Obviously, we got a lot of work to do. There's some things we did last year in recruiting that we think we can do better. There are some ideas that we have moving forward based on being here a year and kind of knowing how Marshall works. So we're excited. It's like the celebration of one event, but the birth of the next recruiting cycle, starts now.
And are you shocked at all that this coaching staff was able to recruit the #1 recruiting class in program history?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, everything, we try to win every game. I know people don't think we do, but we try to win in everything we do. So our goal was to go out and recruit the best athletes, people, character, families, all the things that we think will help us be successful on the field. That was our goal. We were very aggressive with it. We were very aggressive in our approach. We were very thorough in our approach. Obviously we dealt with some, protocols, but we were very thorough, from FaceTimes to reaching out to community members to talking to high school counselors. Everything we could do to check, and validate all the things that we saw on film to make sure we're bringing the right people here. So not surprised, appreciative of the work that they put in, but not surprised. We can still do better. I think we have a very good class, somewhere probably the best class that they've had around here in a very long time. I've heard one group tell me it was probably the best class in Marshall history. Now, how do you measure that, right? If we don't win another game, then, it was a great class. But I think what we've done is we've put ourselves in position to not only elevate our on-field play, but elevate our character, elevate our academics, elevate Marshall's brand as a whole.
Can you equate how you were this time last year to today? I'm sure a year ago you're kind of learning around town, you're getting settled, but now you've got your feet in the ground and you're settled, and it's a lot different from a year ago, isn't it?
Yeah, this time last year I assigned an entire class except one person that I didn't know, because of the transition, right? A lot of the young men were already signed. Those young men have done a phenomenal job. Ethan Payne was already signed in last year's class, and I kind of walked in. We were able to add one young man to that class. But this year I feel like I've got a better grasp. It probably took me a year to kind of learn the class that we signed, that first signing class. Now I feel like I kind of got a head start because we know these young men. We know their parents. We know what mom's going for. We know what mom ain't going for. We got a chance to sit in these young men's homes. We know how close they are to their moms, their dads, their sisters, their brothers. We know what makes them tick. They know kind of us a little bit. The class before us was kind of signed, and they opened their eyes and they had a new coach. But this class chose us. This class chose our mentality. They chose our culture. They chose Marshall. So I think it really gets to the opportunity, the difference. I was running around trying to see every restaurant and do as much as I can to meet as many people as I could. But now I got an opportunity to really go out and define what our culture looks like from a recruiting standpoint.
Tell us a little more about these 4 new guys that were added today. All 4 on the defensive side of the ball, a couple high school guys, a couple guys with a little bit of college experience. Just what made you go after these particular guys? What do they bring to the table?
Yeah, Tom, you just steamrolled Grant. His question was out there, and you just decided, nope, not going with it. But these 4,
The audio, couldn't hear him. I'm sorry.
That's all right. These 4 guys today, I'll start. Dennis Miller, DB out of Creekside in Atlanta, phenomenal athlete, probably one of the best pure defensive backs that I saw on film. Now, that doesn't mean that he's Deion Sanders, but just pure athleticism. He jumps a 49 triple jump, won the state championship in Georgia on the triple jump, and thinks he's going to get 50 this year easily. So if you talk about a little bit of just athleticism, I tried to triple jump last week when it was snowing. I tried to jump from my car to the step to the house. I did not jump anywhere near 49. And when I hit the ground, I decided that was not something I was going to do again. But if you just think of the athleticism in a triple jump for a kid to jump 49 and win the state, obviously a really phenomenal athlete. Is going to bring a lot of athleticism to our back end, which creates a lot of flexibility. can play corner, can play star, can move around a little bit. Obviously, have a huge role in special teams. Elijah Russell, right? You look at him, and he looks like we want our athletes to look. Long, lean, with a lot of room for growth. You watch him, he's also a big-time basketball player. You watch him run up and down the court. I like to see offensive and defensive linemen that play basketball, not for how many points can they score in the low paint, but just the athleticism of running up and down the court, changing directions, flipping your body movements, all of those things. So he's a phenomenal edge rusher. He's going to bring us some edge presence. If you think of kind of the edge rushers that we've had here, and I'm just talking last year, we probably need more length, right? We need guys with a little more length. We've got some phenomenal guys that come off the edge and do some things, but we need some guys with a little more length. And then we were able to kind of really comb through the transfer portal. You guys know my philosophy on the transfer portal is somebody in this building has to know the young man or know his family or have recruited him. We try not to go in the transfer portal blind. We were able to go in there and get Anthony Watts, who was a Purdue transfer. Our D-line coach, Coach Street, knows half his entire community from Houston all the way back to his high school coach, to his Little League coach, to the guy he picks up chicken wings from on the corner store, the whole deal. And he was a young man who was at Purdue, played at Purdue, inside guy. Obviously, we need to replace some inside guys when you look at the guys that have departed here. A big, physical, athletic, can play the shade, can play the 3-tech, can play the 4-eye, can play the end, creates a lot of flexibility, and he's played college football at a very high level. So that gives us the opportunity to allow some of our younger guys the opportunity to mature while we still are able to put a good product on the field. Then we were able to also go into the transfer portal and pick up Isaiah Gibson Jr., phenomenal SEC defensive lineman from Kentucky. A couple coaches on our staff knew his high school coach, and he's probably one of the most mature young men, has a son. His girlfriend and him are almost like high school sweethearts. Has done a phenomenal job since he's been here. You go back and you watch the film, and when you go in the transfer portal, you're not looking for guys who are on the team. You're looking for guys who are on the field. And both of these young men are on the field. Obviously, Isaiah played in the SEC. My time at Alabama, we crossed paths, so I've definitely seen him play. He and Anthony Watts are going to be a phenomenal kind of stability inside for us because we need some of that with losing TJ, to the draft. Jamari's moved on, so we need that. And you think back to the very beginning of the season, I was fired up about how deep and how disruptive our D-line was. Well, as the season went on, we started to lose guys. And then we get to the last game, and we're playing with 6 D linemen. Now, is that the reason we lost the game? No, but over time, when you get into the back end of the season, when you don't have the big guys up front, they wear on you, and you watch that game, the last game, it turned into the last 8 minutes. They kind of just ran the ball, and we kind of just bled out. So being able to fix some of those issues was huge in our class.
For guys like Peter and Chase to be able to get in here, obviously the quarterback position is going to be wide open. For them to be able to get in and partake in spring ball, how beneficial is that for a quarterback within the system especially? Not that it's not for other positions, but especially with what you all are trying to do offensively.
Yeah, I think, we don't have a quarterback right now. We don't have a quarterback who has played meaningful college reps. We have quarterbacks that have been on the team. We've had quarterbacks that have done a phenomenal job for us, but we are trying to fill that void. For a high school quarterback, you can throw 7-on-7, you can throw routes on air, but coming into college early to kind of get your feet under you to learn the system, as a quarterback, you can't just know what you do. You got to kind of know what everybody does. So it takes a little longer to learn that. Then once you learn what everybody does, you got to kind of understand how you can add to that. With Chase and Peter being here, that gives them an opportunity to do that in meetings, an opportunity to do that in one-on-one settings. When spring ball hits, they get an opportunity to do that live in spring ball. The other huge piece of playing quarterback is people have to understand that you are the quarterback, not that you are playing the quarterback position. So what does that mean? They got to know that you're going to be on time. They got to know that you have the right maturity. They got to know that you have the right leadership skills. They got to know when something's not right that you'll speak up. They got to know when something goes right, you'll speak up. So now they've got an opportunity to learn that. Well, when you're a freshman, it's hard to come in and speak up when you don't even know what the next day looks like. So the time that they get to learn all of that will give them the ability that when we do get into true football, now they can be the quarterback and not just play the quarterback position. I think they're doing a phenomenal job this far. We're about 2 weeks into workouts. You know, the beauty of our program is consistency, right? So once you learn what Tuesday looks like, it's going to be the Tuesday for the rest of your career here. Once you learn what Wednesday looks like, so for the freshmen, it's a little new. But again, once they learn it, now I can start to add to it. I can show my maturity. I can show my leadership. I can figure out when do I need to work out a little bit longer. When do I need to study a little bit more, those types of things.
Earlier talked about kids doing multiple sports. I'm assuming you're a big fan of that, as a lot of college coaches are, because playing different sports teaches you how to overcome different types of adversity, which makes them a better college athlete, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think, there's a fine balance, right? I think obviously playing multiple sports, I'm a fan of. You play multiple sports, you're competing year round. You're in some type of shape year round. Each sport, although the movements may be similar, each sport forces you to change your body, flexibility, change the direction in a different way. It's different than playing left tackle and running down and playing center. So what it does is it keeps them in a routine. And everybody, humans, Tom, Keith, we all need routine, right? We need to have something that keeps us in some type of rhythm. And I think when you play multiple sports, you may not be LeBron James, going on the basketball court as a football player. But what it does is keeps you in a routine, right? I go to school, I go to practice, I go home, I do homework, I come back. I go to school, it keeps you in that routine. And when you do that, that's how development happens. Development happens in routine. It doesn't happen in inconsistency. So you talk about in practice all the time, we talk about taking, the repetition. Well, that's how development happens. And two sports allows them to stay in repetition.
One of the things I think is interesting with this class, it's not just guys who have the skill set, but a lot of the backgrounds for some of the kids. You look at Maurice Jones, you look at a Trent Fraley. These are football family type kids that you all have recruited. How much does that help with people being able to take that step from high school to college play?
Yeah, I think that's part of our culture, right? There's some people that when I walk in the room or the high school, they don't fit with me. I don't do negative. I don't do lazy. I don't do guys that are more worried about, what color shoes we wear at Marshall than playing football. And that's fine. Those things are fine. But I do think there are a lot of families and players that our culture, myself, my coaches do attract. And the ones that we attract are usually tough. They're usually good character kids, athletic. They usually understand the meaning of hard work. A lot of our guys have a story about how they've worked to get to where they are. So I think when you're recruiting those types of young men and those types of families, although they may not be the same, I think they attract to who we are. We attract to what they are, and as we get to learn who they are.
Coach, more than just the numbers, meaning you bringing in the number one recruiting class in our history, what do these guys mean to you as not only football players, but as just young men that you're also bringing into the culture? And they're going to spend a lot of time with you. How do you shape them from just high school students into young men?
Yeah, I mean, as a coach, you don't play favorites, right? But, I mean, this is like my first class. I mean, these are the guys that chose me with no record, no head coaching record, no head coaching experience. They chose me and our program and Marshall combined before anybody else did, right? Hope 50 years from now, and I'm still recruiting Marshall classes, the 50th class would be important to me but these guys are special. They're our first. They're our first recruits. They're our first commits. They're our first full class. So I think ultimately we have a little bit more sense of we really need to see these guys develop. Why? Because if these guys develop, they'll tell the next group. If these guys have success in the classroom, they'll tell the next group. same thing. The guys on the team that we spent a year with, they told this class. So it really helps, moving forward. Their ability to develop, their ability to have success really creates a lot of opportunities for us to recruit other really good young football players.
All right, we're going to hit the Zoom. Tom, do you have any questions for Coach Huff?
Yeah, Coach, this is the first time we've gotten to chat since the news came out the other day that Clint Trickett is going to be promoted to offensive coordinator. I know Clint was heavily involved in recruiting a lot of these guys coming in today. Just what made him an attractive candidate for that job, and what does he really bring to the table as an offensive coordinator at Marshall?
Yeah, I think, obviously Clint and his family and